everyone. So today we will be studying silkworm rearing. Content of today's topic is pure varieties of silk moths, hybrid varieties of silk moths, rearing house, disinfection of rearing house. Introduction of this topic. Rearing of silkworms is a tedious process with many steps to make it a profitable business. Important steps are selection of silkworm race. So we have to see to it that the silkworm race that we select are tolerant to the environmental condition. They produce good quality silk. They produce good quantity of silk. Right? Then healthy and hygienic rearing. Here healthy and hygienic rearing is very important to get good quality cocoons. It has been found that local varieties are sturdy, but the poor silk yield is obtained. Chinese and Japanese varieties are intolerant to Indian conditions, but they give good silk yield. Therefore, hybrid varieties between Indian and Chinese, Indian and Japanese races have been done, and they are very popular for commercial rearing. Varieties of silkworm for rearing. Some of the pure Indian varieties and hybrid varieties that are popular are some in extinct varieties, then North Indian and West Bengal varieties, some varieties found in South India and some that are popular in northeast states of India. Among the hybrid varieties, we will be studying multivoltine white cocoon races, multivoltine yellow cocoon races, and bivoltine races. Pure Indian varieties, extinct varieties. Okay, so Kashmir and Bulupulu, these are the two Indian varieties which are extinct now. One is from Kashmir, the other is from West Bengal. Then pure North Indian and West Bengal varieties with distinct features. Bora blue, this is a univoltine species which produces greenish or white colored cocoon and is found in West Bengal. Johto blue is a multivoltine race which produces white or yellow cocoon and is found in West Bengal. Nistari or Madrasi is a multivoltine race which produces golden or yellow colored cocoon and is found in North India and West Bengal. Nistari is very popular throughout North India. Then popular South Indian varieties are C. nichi, which is a bivoltine or multivoltine race which produces white cocoon and is found in Mysore. Pure Mysore variety is again a multivoltine race which produces yellow or greenish yellow cocoon and is popular in South India. So pure Mysore is a popular variety of South India. Pure Indian varieties from northeastern states are Naipolu or Poplu. This is a multivoltine race and produces light yellow or white color cocoon. Sarupat is a multivoltine race which produces light creamy or white cocoon. Moria is a multivoltine race which produces light creamy white cocoon. Developing of hybrid varieties. What is the reason why we move towards producing hybrid varieties? What is the purpose? The reason is the pure breeds, though they are well adapted to the Indian climatic conditions and are popular among the masses, they show low production and poor silk quality with very high rendita. Hence, it is necessary or it was imperative to go for research on hybrid varieties so that we can produce such varieties which will give more quantity of silk and better quality silk. And we also need to develop such varieties that can sustain different environmental conditions found in India and are capable of resisting diseases. Some of the hybrid varieties are multivoltine white cocoon races. From Tamil Nadu, we have Tamil Nadu white. From Mysore, we have Kolar Gold, Mysore Prince, C, C5, MW, MW1 and MW2. From Berhampur, we are having A18, A23, A25, D14B, OS61 and OS616. These are some of the examples, many more are there. Multivoltine yellow cocoon races from Berhampur, we are having MBD4, MBD5, C, D3, MY2. Hybrid varieties. Multivoltine cocoon races which are hybrid are NB1C, NB7, NB18. Chinese variety are hybrid between Chinese and Indian varieties, CA1, CC1. Between Indian and Japanese variety, we have JA2, JB2, JC1. And PCN is a very hardy race which produces dark greenish yellow cocoon. Current research for developing new hybrids is uh, continuously going on, and the new races developed by Central Silk Research Board is brought to the farm, and for few years on experimental basis it is grown, and then it is recommended to the farmers. Okay, so some new races of silkworm eggs that have been notified by Central Silk Board for commercial production are mulberry silkworm, hybrid between PM and FC2. It produces 60 kg cocoons per DFLS, so it is quite a good amount. Tropical tussar silk moth is BDR10, which produces 21% more than the earlier Daba breed. Ori silkworm, so we have C2, which produces 247 cocoons per 100 DFLS. There is also a good amount. Some new hybrid varieties that have been recommended by the Central Silk Board for various states and for various seasons are as follows. You can see CSR2, CSR4 combination. You have BB, which is popular in South India and temperate regions, spring and rainy season. Similarly, we have double hybrid. We have other BB varieties which are again good for spring and rainy season, South India, North India, depending upon the combinations. These are some more varieties recommended by the Central Silk Board for different seasons. Many more have been recommended. So I have listed around 29 from Central Silk Board of India website. Now we move on to the rearing house. In India, silkworm rearers are the farmers. They use cheaply constructed single room huts, and in that single room hut only all activities are done. Sometimes mountages may be kept outside the rearing room because of shortage of space. Okay, so only rearing is done in the room. Mountages are kept outside. Leaf cutting is done outside. Storage of leaf is also done separately. All right, so a single room is only the rearing house. But when commercial rearing is done, then a proper rearing house is constructed. An ideal rearing house should have separate rooms for different purposes such as incubation of eggs, rearing of worms, storing of mulberry leaves, keeping rearing appliances, placing mountages, and spinning larvae. This is a diagrammatic representation of rearing house where you can see there is a lab cum business room or anteroom. Adjoining to that inner side you have a rearing room, and the rearing room has a door, windows. All the doors and windows are covered by fly proof mesh. Adjoining the rearing house there is good amount of plantation to provide shade during summer season. Leaf storage room, machine room are also there. Construction of a rearing house. When you are constructing a rearing house, you have to take into consideration following factors. First is location. You have to see to it that your rearing house is constructed on an elevated area, so to avoid waterlogging during rainy season. Orientation of the rearing house should be north-south direction to prevent direct sunlight in tropical countries. If it is east-west direction, then there must be veranda and shade trees around the rearing house to protect from afternoon sun and from direct wind. Doors and windows should be fitted with wire mesh to avoid the entry of oozy fly. The wall height in a rearing house should be minimum 10 feet on the sides and 14 feet at the center. The rooms should be longer than wide. If they are longer than wide, then you can have more windows and ventilation will be better. Okay, so you have good ventilation. There should be water facility for cleaning, washing, disinfection, humidification purpose. Lighting arrangements must be there so that one can work during night also. There must be electrical points for using different gadgets such as heaters for heating during winter season, humidifiers for rainy season, coolers to cool the room during summer, and lighting the building. And if it is a very good establishment, then they have everything thermostatically controlled. Exhaust fans are very important to evacuate humidity during the rainy season. Veranda has to be there all around the rearing house to prevent the entry of rats, lizards, etc. directly into the rearing house. The floor should be cemented properly, wall should be cemented so that it is rat proof. The floor and wall should be smooth for cleaning, disinfection, and for maintaining hygiene in the rearing room. Before starting the rearing process, disinfection is very important. So disinfection of rearing house is a very important procedure done as a precaution against pathogens. Rearing room and all the equipments that are used have to be disinfected after one rearing season and before the beginning of the next rearing season. For efficient spreading of disinfectant, the rearing equipment should not be stacked. They should be kept separately so that the disinfectant that you are using spreads on it from all sides. Disinfectant must be effective. It should be easy to apply and it should be cheap because we know most of the farmers are doing this business and they cannot afford very costly disinfectants. It should be miscible in water and biodegradable. Some of the disinfection method that is used in a rearing house are physical methods and chemical methods. In physical methods, we have sun drying using steam and you can use hot air. In chemical method, fumigation can be done, liquid can be sprayed or solids can be dusted. So physical method, this is very cheap and easy method, but it is not totally reliable. Sun drying is the cheapest of all. In tropical areas where there is plenty of sunshine, where is there plenty of uh, afternoon sun, the equipments can be disinfected by this method. But the problem is you cannot disinfect the rearing house, interior of the rearing house by using sun drying method. Then steam, installation of boilers and steam pipes is a costly affair, which is not possible in case of our poor and middle class farmers. The other drawback of steam method for disinfection is that the farmers mostly use wooden appliances from whatever wood or other raw material is available locally or in their field. So steam will spoil these wooden appliances. In hot air method, it is a good method, but it's very costly and therefore is not practiced in India. Chemical method, this is costly method but very effective. Chemicals in solid, liquid or gaseous forms can be used. So the most commonly used are chloramines, iodophos, formaldehyde. Formaldehyde gas is usually used for fumigation of the rearing house.